Hey guys, what's up? MadUzuki here, and I have an RU battle recorded here for you, or to record for you. Well, by the time you're watching this, it'll be recorded, so I guess it works both ways. Only difference that I've made to this team is switched out Clefable for my Gigalith, which is running a Custapberry Explosion set, which is pretty common now, and it works pretty well even outside of NU, so I decided to put it on my RU team because it's really, really good actually. But in this match, it doesn't play out quite as well as I would have liked. Okay. So, there's a few things to discuss in these first couple of turns because I start off making a really bad misplay. I expected Ampharos to be choiced, but for some reason, instead of going for the Stealth Rocks, the safe play, I decided to go for Earthquake. And he brings in his Aerodactyl, which means I don't do anything to this Aerodactyl. I knew it was going to happen, but I don't know why I still went for it. And then when he was in, I was really expecting to live an Earthquake because of how much health I have left, but I forget that Aerodactyl is actually a pretty powerful poke. And I lose Gigalith for really no reason. It was one of the worst plays I've ever done, one of the stupidest things I ever did. But I get to go out into Drudgeon, take a Stone Edge really well, and Glare Aerodactyl, which is really, really, really good, because I'm like, this thing is pretty much useless now, because Aerodactyl's frail, so it really won't appreciate taking any damage from anything. Ampharos comes back in, and I switch out to my Gallade because, as I previously mentioned, originally I thought this thing was Specs. When I bring in my Gallade and he fires off a Thunder Wave, that's when I realized this is not a choiced Ampharos. It's not Scarfed. It's not Specs. It's the defensive set. And I'm kind of glad that I decided to go into my Gallade at that point, because if anything would have wanted to get paralyzed at this point in the game, Gallade would have minded it the least. I decided to go for a bulk up on the Sandslash, just kind of to scout for the X-Scissor, because I knew I could live an X-Scissor really well. And then I decided to go for the Will-O-Wisp. Oh no, he switches when I bulk up. Okay, because I knew he wasn't going to stay in. So I go for the bulk up because either the Volt Switch or the Hard Switch is coming. And then when he goes out in Sandslash, I know I can take an X-Scissor if he's carrying it, and then I Will-O-Wisp. And then he goes out into Charizard on my Paralyze, and he subs as I go for a Psycho Cut, because I really don't want to deal with this Charizard. I figured it would be a special set, so I most likely would have been able to take an Air Slash. But turns out he's actually a Belly Drum set with Salic Berry, which could have been really interesting. But because I don't get paralyzed there, which seems like he was banking on it, it doesn't really play out in his favor. Maybe he was expecting me to go for another bulk up, but I really wouldn't see why I would do that, considering he already showed sub. I really don't want to get him set up, or let him get set up. At this point, I just want to scout this Primeape, which is why I go for the bulk up here. Does not play out in my favor at all. Turns out he has Punishment, which increases for every stat that the target Pokemon has raised. So basically, every time I use a bulk up, damage of Punishment goes up by, like, effectively, for lack of a better way to put it, 2 points. So I decided to get out of there because now I'm encored into bulk up, so I'm like, well, that's not going to work out well for me. So I switch out into my Drudgeon because I can wall his Primeape all day, every day, as he goes out in Sandslash. I figured he would switch at that point, so I just Dragon Tailed. I was partially expecting the U-turn, but he goes out in Sandslash, gets shuffled out into Ampharos, who paralyzes my Drudgeon, which doesn't really matter to me too much, just because Drudgeon is slow as molasses to begin with, so there are worse Pokemon he could have paralyzed, definitely. I miss a Dragon Tail, which is not that big a deal. And then I shuffle him out into Sceptile. He goes for the Earthquake here, which I guess was a fine play. I just want to get the glare off on this thing because I honestly expected it to be an unburdened set. So I figured if I have the glare, then I wouldn't have any issue dealing with it in the future, even if it is like an acrobatics unburdened set. And I set up the Stealth Rocks because I really want to bring out his Sand Slash because I know I'm physically defensive and Rapid Spin isn't going to do anything to me. And I know that it would bait the switch. So he does exactly as I expect him to do. I actually go for a Dragon Tail there because I wanted to start getting some team shuffling going on. I miss, so it doesn't really pan out the way I would have liked to. I'm not sure if Dredgeon gets Roar, but it might be a better option just because it's a guaranteed phase. Dragon Tail can be kind of iffy because of its lower accuracy, and obviously it doesn't force switches through subs. So that is something that I have thought about changing. Anyway, he switches into his Primeape. I set up my Stealth Rock because he's going to try and go for an Encore. I guess he predicted the Stealth Rock, which is fine. I don't know how he would have really benefited from that, but as he encores, I go out into my Enbor, who Flare Blitzes all over his Primape's face, and that's a dead Primeape right there. Not really much else you can say about that. As he goes into Sand Slash, I'm pretty confident that an Earthquake or a Rapid Spin is coming, just because of how he's been playing Sand Slash in the past. He sets up Stealth Rocks at this point, which doesn't faze me at all, because there's nothing on my team other than Emboar that really... I mean, even Emboar, because of his fighting type, nothing on my team minds Stealth Rock terribly, and I haven't been doing a whole lot of switching. I haven't really need to. So there was really no reason to worry about that. I Sludge Bomb him expecting a Sceptile switch in to resist Leaf Storm, but that doesn't work out. And his Sand Slash resists the hit, which is fine because I can switch out into Dredgeon. He goes out into Ampharos, and I decide that I'm just going to glare this thing, maybe try and cripple it. Turns out he reveals the Heal Bell. So my glares now on Sceptile and Aerodactyl are gone, which is something I now have to keep in the back of my head, because I was really relying on those to be beneficial to me in the end game, either sweeping through his team with Minccino or Emboar. I get the Stealth Rock set back up after he Heal Bells again to get rid of the paralyzation on his Ampharos. And then he Thunderbolts and I Dragon Tail. I probably could have Earthquake there. No, I no longer carry Earthquake because I switched it out for Dragon Tail. So the reason why I Dragon Tailed is because it was really the best thing to do in that scenario. Because if he switched into Sand Slash, I would have shuffled him out and yada yada yada. I get paralyzed on the turn that I was trying to set up Stealth Rocks again, because the idea was to basically try and get his Sand Slashing to just Rapid Spin as much as possible to really rack up Rough Skin damage. He goes for an Earthquake, which does a lot more than I had hoped. And he realizes that he can actually kill me off with it and not take Rough Skin damage. So that kind of works out for him, because I do Dragon Tail him out into Aerodactyl, who does end up taking me out with an Earthquake. And I go into Glade thinking that I can pretty much take whatever he wants to throw at me and hit him with a Will-O-Wisp. But turns out he has a Power Herb Sky Attack, which is really not good news at all. And he goes for a second Sky Attack here, and I kind of risked the Focus Blast because I saw a golden opportunity to take out Aerodactyl, and I went for it. Because I knew there was no way Aerodactyl was living a Focus Blast. I don't. He probably wouldn't have survived a Leaf Storm, but Sceptile and Ampharos both would have resisted it and would have put me in a bad position. So I didn't want to risk it. At this point, when he goes out into Sand Slash, I'm going to bring in my Minccino at this point because I feel like this is a really good opportunity to try and just break through the rest of his team. I can lock myself into Tail Slap. I know I outspeed everything at this point. And Tail Slap most likely should be able to take out Ampharos and Sceptile. Unfortunately, there is an oversight with that, and Ampharos does not go down to a Tail Slap. And I get paralyzed. Not that it matters because he immediately kills me off with Thunderbolt. But I figure this is a good chance to bring an Emboar. I can kill this thing off with Flare Blitz, take minimum recoil damage, and because I'm Scarfed, I know I will outspeed Sceptile. The problem with that is that he ends up actually getting the static, which means I will not outspeed Sceptile, which means he will get a Flight Gem boosted acrobatics off on my my Emboar. And basically, for me in my head, I was very confident that I could live acrobatics because it's unstabbed at this point, no Flight Gem, and I could kill it off with a Sludge Bomb, which is exactly what happens. Barring a crit, basically, that is the only reason that I would have lost. But as soon as it was down to Tangrowth versus Sceptile and he used his acrobatics gem, I knew that pretty much I could wall him all day. If I remember correctly, he actually had Earthquake on that. I would have been curious to see what would have happened had he gone for Earthquake instead of the acrobatics. Because in retrospect, looking at how much damage that acrobatics did, he may have been able to kill me off with a Flight Gem boosted acrobatics, and going for an Earthquake on the first turn probably would have been more beneficial to him. But he doesn't do that, and it pays off for me, and I win the battle. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.